And we're live. I watched a video recently. There was a trend where it was like, hey, what would win? This versus this, you know, the horse versus the ducks. You've seen it. It was the sun versus a trillion lions. And Taylor sometimes is like, people don't get how big a trillion is. So with that in mind, I was like, what would happen if we took a trillion lions in a ball and put it at the sun? If I took a handful of like mud and threw it at a small fire, I'd put the fire out. Is a trillion lions a lot of lions? It seems like a lot of lions, but the sun is a formidable competitor. Right?
Yes.
So how does it compare against a trillion lions?
That's a trillion lions.
Taylor, where's your answer on this? A trillion lions thrown at the sun, what happens?
Definitely the lions. The sun can't bite.
My guess is nothing happens. My guess would be nothing at all.
Well, a trillion dead, suffocated lions show up and burn to death. Maybe.
Yeah, you just launch them at the sun.
If there's, well, it depends. Are we doing one at a time?
No, in a big ball.
No, a ball. This is a ball of a trillion lions.
Yeah, a ball of a trillion lions. I'm taking the lions. Yeah.
You're wrong. You're wrong. A ball of a trillion lions is so insignificant to the sun that it doesn't even like splash or make a solar flare. So then the guy took it to the next level and they said, hey, that's an English trillion. Apparently a bunch of languages use like it changes. And in France, like I guess a million isn't 1,000 more than 100,000, or better, a billion's not 1,000 more than a million. A billion is a million millions. And then in their language, a trillion is a trillion trillions. So they took that ball, French ball of lions, which is a trillion trillions, and threw it at the sun. Fucking nothing. Nothing.
What?
The sun barely notices a trillion trillion lions. It is, I think, slightly smaller than the moon. And as it approaches the sun, it starts to like break up, and it eventually just becomes a little more but insignificant amount of sun fuel. So then they calculated how many lions it would take. And then that ruins it because it starts getting into scientific notation. I barely understand.
10 to the power of 70, and you're like, that I couldn't fathom a trillion, and now we've gone into algebra or something. Is that algebra?
Yes, exactly. It was like 10 to the 30 something number of lions. So you can imagine a 1 followed by 30 zeros, whatever number that is.
I like those YouTube channels.
Have an impact.
I watched the one that video got recommended to me. That was a little silly for me.
You've seen it recently. Okay.
I didn't watch it, but like because I was just like, look,
you had a better grip on what so I have a lot of respect.
I had a lot of respect for the sun. I think I'm big on the sun here.
I didn't know.
I'm a big sun guy.
Yeah.
How many grains of sand are on Ocean City's 10-mile long beach? Right.
I wouldn't know what that number looks like. I have no concept.
If you told me there were 1 billion grains of sand, I'd be like, okay. If you told
me
there
sounds
were
way too low.
A trillion is a lot of. I don't know.
That'd be a huge amount.
I need to know how many grains of sand are in a handful of sand. I don't know how many. I don't know how much
deep the sand is.
Is this 100 grains? Is it 10,000? Is it 100,000? I don't know.
It's
I
like
need to sit there and like count out 10 grains of sand and be like, well, that's fucking 10. I can rub that between my fingers. Fuck.
Then that must be.
I saw one where they were like, what would happen if a needle hit the earth at the speed of light? And I was just like,
it couldn't be good.
I think something happens. I think it's like a bomb going off, like a nuclear weapon.
Kinetic energy, but it's just a needle.
It turned out that it's like 10 Hiroshima bombs if a needle hits the earth.
So Earth would be fine, but it would be a noteworthy explosion.
Yeah, you destroy a fucking city. Yeah, with a needle going the speed of light. I think it was the final judgment.
Right.
And then they got into, and they're like, in our last video, we told you what would happen if a needle hit the earth at the speed of light. Well, some of you corrected us and made sure we knew that nothing can achieve the speed of light. So for you sticklers out there, we're going to find out what happens if a needle hits the earth at 9.99999999999% the speed of light. And I'm like, did you just double up on ad revenue? They just made the same video again.
Basically, if he did, that's smart.
They're like, all right, smart asses. We'll see who's smart. I'm gonna be collecting the check at the end of the month. Watch this. Yeah, I like those videos. I watch a bunch of that shit. Like, all sorts of like silly math. Like what would happen if you, and some of them are real head scratchers for me because of the numbers involved. It's like, what would happen if you detonated a nuclear weapon at the bottom of the Marianas Trench? Turns out nothing. But I didn't know. Like maybe I didn't know what would happen.
I don't believe him. Something would happen.
So as a child, there was actually like a national, international anxiety about the Cold War. Like it just kind of existed and hung over everything that you did, or hanged over everything you did. I don't know. And we had this idea that nuclear bombs were worse than they really are. Nuclear bombs take out square miles, if I understand it right. And then the fallout, ruins territory, beyond that. And one nuclear bomb could maybe take out New York City. But as a child, we were like, if they launch all of them, does the Earth split? Will it crack like an egg, and will there be two floating hemispheres rotating around the sun? No, they're not that powerful. They're just really good bombs.
If they launched them all, then we would all die, though, because we would go into a nuclear winter.
That'd be an atmosphere thing, not like
that'd be an atmosphere thing. Well, not only would you have vast seas of radioactive wasteland that nothing could exist in, and the water would be poisoned in vast areas, and the entire like chain of production that, I mean, forget nuclear weapons. If you just turned off the oil for a few years, like a massive percentage of humans would just die because there's no like food being moved around. But now you're talking about like a significant percentage of us are just dead because like every major city is already pre-targeted by these things. And there's like 10,000 of them, I think, at this point, but there used to be way more in the Cold War. I think the US has like 4,500, and the Russians have like 5,000, and the Chinese have like some piddling amount, 50.
This is an area where I don't trust the accuracy of our reporting at all.
You're like, they blow those nukes out of proportion.
High or low? I don't know. Like I just don't believe they have any incentive to tell the truth. They could have way more than they say, or way less than they say.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think we're more likely to be honest than the Russians are, and I think the Russians would have a hard time like keeping that shit funded. I think they turned a lot of them into like power plants. They pulled the warheads apart. But yeah, I think if all of them got launched, especially during the Cold War, that's kind of it for us. I mean, we don't go extinct, but our version of what reality is greatly. We turn into Fallout. It's like Fallout the video game. I think that's what happens.
The last 3 presidents have talked about making more nukes, and it makes me think. Did we and just not put any advertising and marketing around the creation of new nukes?
We signed quite a bit of treaties. You would hope that everybody is abiding by them.
Right, because we wouldn't want to go to nuke jail. Like if the Russians were to find out, and it doesn't seem like we're great at keeping secrets, that we had like an extra 1,000 we lied about, then that gives them carte blanche to like make another 1,000, and then you don't want an arms race. We need to get rid of those things. We need a small amount of those. Court found Ronald Reagan guilty of violating something. And I remember the political cartoons where they're like, please don't show the presidential buttocks in court. Just mooning the judge like, fuck you. Yeah. You have no teeth.
No power here.
Yeah.
No, but like I do think we need to keep a lot of them around, because like the aliens ever come, we're gonna need those. We're gonna need those. Not I don't think we could do anything to the aliens with them, but we could be like, look, we'll ruin this place. You think you're taking this? But don't you know what humans are all about? The aliens would be like, Jesus, we're literally heartless insectoids, but they're willing to ruin their whole planet just so that we can't have it.
Those aliens have a lot of self-awareness.
Well, of course they do. They flew here from another
heartless insectoids.
They would be blown away by how vindictive we would be, because that's what we would do. If it came down to like either we are going to be like accept insectoid overlords, or we can just ruin this fucking place so that they'll have to leave, and maybe like we'll crawl from the ashes eventually. We would choose option B.